He said, "Marry me and forget him." The room went silent. His words hit harder than any impact. 2 weeks ago, a crash put me on crutches. Now I stood in her office doorway, trying to breathe. It was downtown Tampa, in the middle of a workday. Metal under my arms, my balance felt thin. Her boss knelt and held up a ring like a show. Monica smiled, and my stomach dropped. "I am Thomas, 32, and I build networks. A truck broke 3 bones in my lower back. Doctors said I would walk after long therapy." She promised support, then vanished. No visits, no rides, only messages about work. I kept paying our bills while she chased titles. Now her boss grinned like this was sport. He mocked my crutches and waited for laughs. A few people snickered, and she stayed quiet. She did not object, and that told me enough. Then he slid a cheap ring onto her hand. Applause filled the room like static. She lifted her fingers to the light and giggled. My chest burned, but my face stayed blank. The team watched like it was a show. 2 years there, and I had funded the dream. Loans, car, rent, and every upgrade. I paid and she kept climbing. The elevator of her life ran on my wallet. People knew it and looked away. Her boss saw me and smiled wider. The crutches made me an easy target. He said, "The spectator has arrived," as if I were a joke. Laughter cracked like glass across the table. Her cheeks flushed, but she said nothing. Silence can be louder than words. And in that silence, I felt the truth. She would call it theatrics later. I knew it. She would say, "You know how he is." But this was not a party with drinks. It was a Tuesday meeting about targets. He chose that room to draw blood. I felt every stare like a pin. They had watched me fund her new life. They clapped while I stood still. I had covered the suits, the car, and the rent, even the gym she bragged about at dawn. They all knew, and none of it mattered. Money can hide cracks until the floor gives way. She beamed at the ring like it was gold. I saw 10 and a lie.
He raised her hand for the cameras. Applause rose again like a wave. For a heartbeat, she met my eyes, and she looked away, and that was the end. I turned and left without a word. No one called my name. The elevator down felt like a mile. 2 weeks in a hospital had felt shorter. I stared at numbers and tried not to break. The doors opened to stale air and echoes. I thought about ceilings and empty nights. I thought about vows we never made. I thought about being replaced in public. My phone buzzed while I reached the garage. Her text said, "Do not be dramatic." She wrote that it was just Ken being Ken. The message felt colder than the tiles. I deleted it and unlocked the car. I drove home to the place I paid for. Time to see how dramatic I could be. We met 3 years ago at a mixer. Young pros chasing chances. She carried debt and a bright smile. I carried tools and a steady income. Work was good and money came in. Helping felt natural back then. She was smart and driven and easy to love. We talked about building a life. We planned and saved and hoped. I thought we were a team. 6 months in, I helped with her loans. She said, "Just until I get settled." Then her car died, and I stepped in again. Then came the move to a nicer place. Half the rent became most of it. The view was great, and the cost was higher. Clothes, cards, dinners, and contacts. She said networking needs a better image. I said yes, because love makes room. I didn't mind. I thought it was us. What good is success if not shared? I pictured a ring and a small backyard. We talked about houses and trips. We talked about family later when work calmed down. She spoke of tomorrow like it was promised, but the bills kept landing in my lap. My help turned into habit and then into rule. She never offered more, even when she rose.
Even as her paycheck grew, she stayed silent. She never suggested we split things fairly, not even after becoming a senior manager. What started as help turned into a habit. I became the reason she could live above her means. At work, I was the guy who paid for everything.
They all knew me as Monica's invisible wallet. The jokes at events always had the same punchline. They asked when I'd propose so she could relax forever. Last Christmas, I thought a ring would fix us. I thought marriage would make us equals. Instead, she grew more entitled to my help. 6 months ago, Kenneth started his little remarks. He joked she deserved a man who could provide more, a man worthy of a rising executive like her. She always laughed it off and called him harmless, just an aging divorcee needing attention. But I started seeing what I had missed. While I was in the hospital, she was out celebrating. Instagram showed dinners I didn't pay for, shopping trips far beyond her salary, selfies from the gym I paid for, all while telling me she was too busy to visit. When I called her office, Kenneth answered for her. "She's in a meeting," he'd say. "I'll tell her to call." She almost never did, and I ignored the signs. The truth was right there, but I refused to see it. She was building a life with my money, not my presence. And Kenneth was positioning himself as the upgrade, a future without the burden of loving someone broken. I was too trusting and too focused on healing. I didn't see loyalty vanish once it was inconvenient. The apartment felt emptier when I returned. I sank into the leather couch I had paid for, surrounded by things she said we needed. The giant TV for entertaining, the designer table, art chosen to match a life she curated for herself. Our life, she called it. But there was no our. Maybe there never had been from the start. I opened my laptop and checked the numbers. The bank statements told the whole story. I paid thousands every month for her dreams. Student loans, car, rent, credit cards, vacations, insurance, clothes, nights out. I had funded her entire lifestyle while she built a future that didn't include me. My phone rang, and her name glowed on the screen. "Where did you go? Everyone's asking." "I came to congratulate you on your engagement." "Don't be ridiculous," she said. "He was joking."
You know how he gets after a few drinks. It's 2 in the afternoon, I replied. She said nothing, just silence on the line. You're being paranoid, she finally said. The accident messed with your head. Not my accident, just the accident, like it was a random event that didn't involve me. You're right, I said. I'm starting to think clearly. What's that supposed to mean? She asked. I hung up and started dialing other numbers. First my bank, then my credit card companies, then my insurance. It was time to cut the ties. For 2 years she had access to everything. By evening, that would all change. Her name was gone from my accounts. The credit cards she used were canceled, and my direct deposits were rerouted. For the first time in years, the money was mine, and the silence of that freedom felt incredible. It was the first step in taking my life back, and I wasn't planning to stop there. Tomorrow would be a very different day, for both of us, because for the first time in a long time, I was done. Done being a paycheck, done being a stepping stone, done being the man she could use and discard. And for the first time, she would have to stand alone, without me. Do not be ridiculous. Kenneth was just joking. You know how he gets when he has a drink. It's 2 in the afternoon, I said, on a Tuesday. Silence on the line. Thomas, you are being paranoid, she said. The accident messed with your head. You're not thinking clearly. The accident, she said, as if it were nothing. Not my accident, not what happened to me, just some event to dismiss, as if it had not happened to a person she knew. You're right, I said. I am finally thinking, clearer than I have in months. What's that supposed to mean? She asked. I hung up and started another. Bank first, then credit cards, then insurance. She had been an authorized user for 2 years. That ended today. By evening, her access was gone. Accounts locked, cards canceled, and my direct deposits were rerouted. For the first time in years, the money was mine. and the silence of that freedom felt incredible. It was the first step in taking my life back, and I wasn't planning to stop there. Tomorrow would be a very different day for both of us, because for the first time in a long time, I was done. Done being a paycheck, done being a stepping stone, done being the man she could use and discard. And for the first time, she would have to stand alone, without me.
I moved my direct deposit to a new bank. I packed her things into boxes and left them by the door. Then, I called my lawyer. She came home around 9, probably after drinks with Kenneth and the rest of the marketing team. Her eyes fell on the boxes, and her face turned pale. "Thomas, what is this?" she asked. "Your stuff. You'll need to find somewhere else to stay." "You can't just kick me out. This is my home, too." "Check the lease. Only my name is on it." She pulled out her phone, likely to call Kenneth. Then she tried to book a hotel room with her card. I watched as every transaction was declined. "Thomas, my cards aren't working." "I know," I said calmly. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked afraid. "We need to talk about this like adults," she whispered. I picked up my keys without another word. "I've been supporting a child for 2 years. Time for you to grow up." She called 17 times the next morning. I was at physical therapy when she left a voicemail. "Thomas, this is insane. My rent check bounced. My car payment failed. You can't just cut me off like this. Call me back." I finished therapy and drove to my office. Running a one-man IT business meant I could work anywhere. But I needed focus. Anything but her. Text after text kept coming. From her, Kenneth, even her coworkers. "Monica's crying at work. Fix this," one message read. I blocked Kenneth's number. Around noon, Monica showed up at my office. She looked wrecked, hair unwashed, makeup ruined. The BMW was gone. "They repossessed my car," she said, trembling. "Your car that I paid for," I replied. "Please, Thomas, Kenneth's proposal meant nothing. It was just office politics. You have to understand." "I do understand," I said coldly. "You accepted a proposal while I watched on crutches." "I didn't accept anything. I was caught off guard." "You held out your hand for the ring." Her face broke. "I panicked. Everyone was watching." "He's my boss. I didn't know what to do." "You could have said no. You could have mentioned me." "It happened so fast," she whispered. "Your things are packed. Find somewhere else." "I can't afford anywhere else. You know that." "Talk to Kenneth. He seems eager to help." She sat down uninvited. "He doesn't want to marry me. He's still hung up on his ex-wife."
My paycheck barely covers food and gas. Then maybe do not live like a millionaire on my tab. I thought we were building a life together. We were, until you decided Kenneth could build you a better one. She stood up and her face turned hard. "Fine, if you want to be petty and vindictive, then do it. But do not pretend you are the victim here. You used money to control me and now to punish me. I used money to support someone I loved. There is a difference." "I will get a lawyer," she said. "Good luck paying for one." She left without another word. Through the window, I watched her walk to a bus stop. In 3 years, she had never used public transit. She waited 20 minutes before a bus arrived. My phone rang. It was my lawyer. "Thomas, I have been thinking about your case. If she claims common law marriage or financial abuse, we must be ready." "What do you suggest?" I asked. "Document everything. Record every payment you made on her behalf. Make clear they were gifts, not obligations." I spent the afternoon printing statements. I sorted receipts into folders. 2 years of support in black and white. The total passed $100,000. Money I gave freely because I thought we were partners. Now it proved a different story.
At 2 in the morning, the phone rang again. Her sobs came through the line. "Thomas, I'm at my sister's place in Clearwater. I had to take 3 buses to get here. Please, we need to talk." I sat up in the bed she once called ours, the king mattress she said her back required. "What do you want, Monica?" "I want to come home," she said. "You do not have a home here anymore." "I made a stupid mistake, Thomas, but we can fix it. We can make it right. I'll pay you back every penny. I'll get a second job. I'll do whatever it takes." I turned on the lamp and looked around the room. Her side of the closet was empty. The jewelry box was gone from the dresser. The bathroom shelves were bare. The place felt larger without her clutter. "Do you know how much I have given you in 2 years?"
"I do not know exactly," she said. $107,000. I ran the numbers yesterday." Silence answered me. "That is more than twice your annual pay. You lived like you made $200,000 a year on a $50,000 income. The difference was me." "I know you supported me," she said. "I am grateful." "You are not grateful. You were panicked because the money ended." "That is not fair," she said. "What is not fair is learning my fiancé treated me like a bank while cozying up to her boss." "I did not flirt with Kenneth," she said. "I went to your office events. I saw the way you acted. You laughed at his jokes, you touched his arm, you praised his stories. You were auditioning for the role of next wife while I paid your bills." More silence followed. "Answer me this," I said. "If Kenneth had offered a real proposal yesterday, with a real ring and a real commitment, would you have said yes?" "Thomas, that is not fair," she replied. "Answer the question." "I do not know," she said. "Maybe I was confused." There it was, the truth I had avoided. She kept her options open. She used my stability as a safety net while she tested whether Kenneth could offer more. "Did you tell Kenneth about my condition?" "What do you mean?" she asked. "When I was in the hospital, did you tell him I might not walk again?" "The doctor said you would recover," she replied. "That is not what I asked." Another pause stretched long. "Kenneth asked why I wasn't visiting you," she said, "at the hospital. I told him you were in bad shape and needed a lot of care. So yes, I told him you might not walk for a while." I closed my eyes and let the truth settle. "Pity is not love," I said at last, "and ambition is not loyalty." There was nothing left to say between us. "Goodbye, Monica." The line went quiet, and I finally slept.
I told him doctors were unsure about your recovery. And what did he say? "Thomas, this is not helping either of us. What did Kenneth say when you told me I might face a permanent disability? He said I was young and should not tie myself to someone who might become a burden." The words landed like a punch to the chest. "And you agreed with him?" "I did not agree with anything. I was scared and confused, and you were unconscious most of the time, and I froze. You could have visited me. I could not handle seeing you like that. But you could handle shopping with my cards while I lay in intensive care. I needed normal routines to cope. You needed my money to maintain your lifestyle while you decided if I was worth keeping." She began to cry again. "Thomas, please, I love you. I made mistakes, but we can fix this." "No, we cannot. You showed me who you are when life turns hard. You look for an exit." "Where am I supposed to go?" "That is not my problem anymore." I hung up and powered off my phone. Tomorrow, I would start building a life that did not need anyone else to validate it. Monica could learn to live on her real income instead of mine. Kenneth showed up at my office 3 days later. I was expecting him. Monica probably begged him to step in, to smooth things over and restart the money flow. "Thomas, we need to talk." I gestured toward the same chair she had used. "What about it?" "About Monica. About the situation you created." "I created?" He leaned back, trying to look in charge. At 52, he still wore a college haircut.
Too much cologne, too bright teeth, too obvious in his fight to stay relevant. Monica is a valuable employee, he said. This drama is hurting her work. Maybe you should not propose in front of your staff. It was a joke, he said, a moment of levity in a rough quarter.
Hilarious. Proposing to an engaged woman while her injured fiancé watches. His jaw tightened. Monica told me about your arrangement, he said. How you control her with money. Paying bills, managing her expenses. That is financial abuse, Thomas. I opened my laptop and a folder I had prepared. Financial abuse means blocking someone from their own funds or their own decisions. I never touched her paycheck, never controlled her choices. I supplemented her income so she could live far beyond her means. You cut off her cards without warning. I removed her from my accounts. She is an adult with a paycheck of her own. She can apply for her own credit. Her credit is bad because you encouraged a lifestyle she could not afford. I encouraged her to accept gifts that she never had to repay. He stood and looked out at the parking lot. Monica is considering a complaint, he said. Financial abuse, emotional manipulation, vindictive behavior after a disability. Tell her to file what she wants. I have 2 years of records showing voluntary help, gifts, not loans. No claim on my money. This is not about the law, he said. It is about doing the right thing. You mean keep funding her lifestyle so she can work for you without money stress. He turned around and stiffened. Monica deserves stability. Then marry her yourself. Oh, right, you were only joking. I could marry her, he said. I've been thinking about it seriously. Perfect. Then you can take over her car payments and her student loans. She should not have to choose between security and love, he said. She already made her choice, so make yours. If you want stability, give it to her yourself, not with my bank account. He swallowed hard and said nothing. The silence told me everything. He wanted my paycheck, not my blessing.
She made her choice. She chose financial security. The problem is, she chose the wrong one. Kenneth pulled out his phone and showed me a message. Monica sent this yesterday, he said. Monica said that Thomas had made it impossible for me to survive. I need help. And I did help her, Kenneth added. I gave her money for a hotel and food. I smiled slightly. How much did you give her? That's none of your business, he snapped. How much in total so far? I pressed. Kenneth hesitated. A few $100s. Her monthly expenses are over $6,000, I replied. A few hundred won't even last a week. I'm not going to fund her entire lifestyle, he protested. But you expected me to, I said calmly. Kenneth sank back into the chair, his confidence fading. That's different, he muttered. You were her fiancé. You proposed. And that makes me what exactly? I asked. I was drunk. It was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was emotional. My divorce had just been finalized last month. So you used Monica to boost your ego, I said. And now you're upset that your actions have consequences. Kenneth shifted uncomfortably. I need Monica focused at work. This drama's hurting her performance. Then fire her, I said flatly. I can't fire her for personal reasons, he objected. Then fire her for poor performance, I replied. Thomas, be reasonable. What do you want? I closed my laptop. I want Monica to learn that choices have consequences. I want you to understand that humiliating someone in front of their coworkers is not a joke. And I want both of you to leave me alone. Kenneth left without another word. On Friday morning, my lawyer called with the news I'd been expecting. Thomas, Monica filed for emergency financial support. She's claiming common law marriage and financial dependency. She's requesting continued payments for basic living expenses. What's the timeline? I asked. The hearing is scheduled for next Wednesday, he said.
The judge will review the evidence and decide whether temporary support is justified while the case continues. I spent the weekend gathering everything: bank records, receipts, texts, emails, 2 years of documentation showing Monica's voluntary acceptance of gifts. No contracts, no promises, no obligation to keep paying. Wednesday morning, I walked into court with my lawyer and 3 boxes of evidence. Monica sat at the plaintiff's table with a legal aid attorney, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Kenneth was nowhere near sight. "Your Honor," Monica's attorney began, "my client was financially dependent on the defendant for over 2 years. When the relationship ended, he maliciously cut off all support. She's now homeless and unable to meet basic needs. My client requests temporary support to survive." My lawyer rose. "Your Honor, Mr. Thomas voluntarily provided financial assistance as gifts during the relationship. There was never a legal obligation to continue. Miss Monica is a fully employed adult who chose to live beyond her means." The judge reviewed our evidence for about 20 minutes. Bank records showed Monica's income and expenses clearly, proof that I had never blocked her access to her own money or financial decisions. Text messages showed she accepted money as gifts, never as loans. "Miss Monica," the judge finally said, "your annual salary is $52,000. Can you explain why you're unable to support yourself on that income?" Monica looked confused. "Your Honor, that salary doesn't cover my current lifestyle." "What specific expenses are you referring to?" "My rent is $2,500 a month. My car payment is $650. My student loans are $1,800 every month." "So your housing, transportation, and debt payments total more than my income?" she interrupted. "And whose decision was that lifestyle?" the judge asked. Silence filled the courtroom. Monica stared down at the table. "Miss Monica," the judge continued, "financial dependency does not mean entitlement. You chose a lifestyle beyond your means, and Mr. Thomas is not legally obligated to maintain it. Your request for emergency support is denied." Monica's face crumpled. Tears welled in her eyes. The gavel fell, and with it, the last illusion she had of controlling me. I walked out of the courthouse lighter than I had felt in years. The chapter was finally closed. No more manipulation, no more guilt, just freedom, and a future I would build on my own terms. Outside, the sun was shining. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. It wasn't about revenge, it wasn't about punishment. It was about finally choosing myself. And this time, I was making the right choice.
That's about $5,900 a month in expenses. Yes, Your Honor. And with a $52,000 salary, your take-home pay is around $3,400 a month after taxes. Monica's face turned pale. "I never calculated it that way." "Miss Monica," the judge said, "you've been living on nearly double your actual income. That's not financial dependency, that's financial irresponsibility." The judge dismissed Monica's case within minutes. No temporary support, no legal recognition of common law marriage, no obligation. Monica left the courthouse in tears, clutching a bus schedule. Kenneth called me that afternoon. "Thomas, Monica came into my office crying. She's asking me for a loan to cover rent, and I can't afford to support her lifestyle any more than you could. I could afford it. I chose to stop. She's threatening to file HR complaints, saying I created a hostile work environment." "Did you?" I asked. Silence. "Kenneth, you proposed to an engaged woman in front of your entire staff. You called her fiancé useless and crippled. That's textbook harassment." "It was a joke," he said weakly. "Tell that to your HR department." Kenneth's voice turned desperate. "What do you want me to do? Take responsibility for your actions?
Monica's threatening to go to the media. Local news loves stories like this. Then you'd better hope your company has good lawyers. I hung up and drove to physical therapy. 3 weeks post-accident, I was walking without crutches. The doctor said I'd make a full recovery within 6 months. Monica had left when she thought I'd never walk again. Now that I was healing, she wanted back in my life. 2 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Monica had moved back to Ohio with her parents. Kenneth had been demoted after an internal HR investigation uncovered a pattern of inappropriate behavior. Velvet Media quietly settled with 3 women who had filed harassment complaints. Monica's attempt to live independently failed. Her salary couldn't sustain the lifestyle I had funded. Her credit cards were maxed out, her student loans in default, and her professional reputation was in ruins because of the workplace drama she helped create. Kenneth faced career-ending consequences too. His history of targeting vulnerable employees was exposed. His executive career never recovered after the investigation revealed the truth. Both of them learned a hard lesson. Actions have consequences, and humiliating someone who truly cared says more about their character than mine. Last week, I signed the lease on my new apartment, a place I could afford and navigate easily as I continued my recovery. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply walking away from people who mistake kindness for weakness. 2 months later, I heard from mutual friends that Monica had moved back to Ohio with her parents. She was living with her parents, trying to rebuild a life from scratch. Kenneth, meanwhile, had been demoted after an internal HR investigation uncovered a pattern of inappropriate behavior.
Velvet Media eventually settled out of court with 3 women who had filed complaints. The company paid quietly to avoid public embarrassment. Monica tried to regain her financial independence, but reality hit hard. Her salary couldn't sustain the lifestyle I had once funded. Her credit cards were maxed out. Her loans went into default. Even her professional reputation was tarnished by the drama she'd helped create. Kenneth's downfall was even steeper. His pattern of targeting vulnerable employees came to light. His once promising executive career never recovered from the scandal. Both of them learned the same painful truth. Actions have consequences, and humiliating someone who truly cared said more about their character than mine. I signed the lease for my new apartment last week, a modest place, one I could afford and navigate easily during recovery. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine, a space built on peace, not pretense. And in that quiet space, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from guilt, from being used. Freedom to rebuild a life on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's walking away and never looking back. Walking away from people who mistook my kindness for weakness. Walking toward a future where my worth is not defined by someone else's approval. The accident had changed everything, but maybe it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It broke me, and in doing so, it set me free. I was no longer Thomas, the man who paid for someone else's dreams. I was Thomas, the man who built his own. And this time, I wouldn't waste it on anyone who didn't deserve it.